life on another world, and a militarized religious conspiratorial cult in the first half hour. I'd say we're off to a pretty good start. Hello, Legion, this is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. Let's play some more Stellaris Federations in our final Federation 2 series. This is Alpha Centauri 3. And we, of course, did just finish surveying that at the end of the last episode, and we discovered that there is, in fact, alien life on Alpha Centauri 3. Not intelligent alien life, but alien life. It's there. There's also the Alpine world of Alpha Centauri 4, which we still have yet to survey. But we are taking a look at that while also looking over here, literally across the way, a few jumps closer than Alpha Centauri. But we have a cultist marauder fleet, which we're not quite strong enough to fight right now. So one of the first priorities we have during gameplay this episode is to build up the first fleet, led again by Thuso Bencole, to a point where it could take on and defeat those marauders. Not only to defeat them, but because our first habitable world is in Sirban. Plus, Sirban's a very nice system we haven't finished surveying. There might be more resources than just what you see here available to us. So that is kind of what we're going to focus on as soon as I go over just a few more things. In the last episode, we talked about setting research priorities, what you might build first on your main colony, ship design, and exploration. Now, I didn't want to keep going down the list of things you do at the very beginning of a game of Stellaris because I wanted to get to some gameplay, but there are some other things that are worth looking at in the beginning. And the first thing that I have on my list is if you hit F7 on the PC version, you have edicts that you can invoke. Now, this list will be growing fairly rapidly in the early game. So you'll soon have options where you can spend energy, for instance, to get some very nice benefits, and you want to keep those edicts going as soon as possible. We don't have those yet. We do have the option to either map the stars or encourage political thought. Now, these cost influence. And as you can see, both of these options are available to me. So the question is, are you going to do either of those? Like mapping the stars would increase survey speed and increase anomaly discovery chance, which that's only 90 influence. And there's a good argument for doing that in the early game to where you could get some additional bonuses from those anomalies, say. I'm not going to do it in this case. And the reason is that influence is also used for bringing systems into your territory. So I was going to say colonizing, but you're not necessarily colonizing when there's no habitable planets in a system. But when you establish an outpost in any of these systems, for instance, that's going to cost me a little bit of influence, especially early in the game before there are modifiers that reduce that cost, which we'll be able to get to pretty soon. But right now, it's going to be about 60, 65 per system. And I want to make sure that I'm saving that for these systems, rather than spending it on anything else, especially because one of our habitable worlds, two, in fact, of our habitable worlds, if we're going to colonize Alpha Centauri 4 soon, which we probably won't, because we have two much more habitable planets that we can focus on first. But we have two colonizable worlds in Alpha Centauri, and that's 3 jumps away. So that's going to cost us 60 times 3, and we're looking at only 232 influence. So I'm not going to spend that yet, but edicts is one thing that you can look at. The next thing is your policies, and that's F6. On the PC version. So we've started out with an expansionist diplomatic stance, which we're going to keep for now because that reduces, as you can see, the build cost of outposts, as well as increases the colony development speed. So any new colonies that I establish will be done establishing themselves a little bit faster as long as we're expansionist. You want to turn this off. This is a new feature in Federations and in the 2.6 update. You want to turn this off when you encounter neighboring empires, especially if they're not very friendly and you think they might be stronger than you, because if you set your stance to cooperative, notice that there are some benefits. Border friction is reduced by 50%, so basically there's less of a negative impact from bumping up against other empires, and then you have more potential to improve relations with envoys, and you also have more diplomatic weight, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and I'll just show you. Again, this isn't a tutorial series, but I want to go over some of these basic details so that we can have a sense for what these initial steps in a Stellaris game are, and I want you to know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. So then we have a war philosophy of liberation wars only, which we'll keep for now. Orbital bombardment set to selective, resettlement set to prohibited, which is really just a way to say that we can move free pops between systems freely. So we can either allow forcible resettlement or we can prohibit it. Now, in most cases, you can leave this as prohibited, and in my experience, I'll have to figure out exactly what the nuance is here. It's not something I'm as familiar with, but for instance, in my past play, well, you know what it might be? Hang on. No, It's nothing with egalitarian. So in my past play as the Unified Solar Republic, preparing for this series, and just in the past in general, I've still been able to move pops around to other colonies without changing that policy. So we're going to have to see how that plays out, and maybe we can talk about it in the comment section of this episode a little bit to get the exact nuances of it. But this can also affect faction influence as well, depending on any of these policies can, in fact, depending on what your policy is. So for now, resettlement is prohibited. First contact protocol is peaceful, and it can only be peaceful for our particular ethics. Initial border status is open. Food policy is dietary balance. Now we could set this to nutritional plenitude, and this would increase food upkeep and mineral upkeep for pops, but it will also increase happiness and growth speed. So this is a way right away to increase our food upkeep, but get populations across the board to grow faster. There's a good argument for doing this right at the beginning of the game if you want to grow as quickly as possible. But then again, you are using more minerals, a pretty substantial amount, more minerals and food for your population. And until I have a sense that our initial resource gain is stable, I'm not going to mess with dietary balance just yet. That is my decision. You can make a different one in your own games, but you have that option. Similarly, you'll notice there are 3 policies in a row here that seem, just by their title, that they're pretty important, and they are. So we have a mixed economy. We could go to a civilian economy, which means that consumer goods produce more, a little bit more, 15%, and alloys produce less, a little bit more, or a little bit more of a decrease than the increase you see. Yeah, I didn't mean to click that. Than the increase that you see in consumer goods. And a mixed economy is what we currently have. Or you can shift it the other way. And it's the exact same modifiers, just the opposite direction. So we can go to a militarized economy. But again, until I'm confident that we have a good balance with our first couple of colonies, I might not mess with the policies too much. Trade policy is currently set to wealth creation, basically all of our trade value, which is something that we get. You can see we have some trade value in the Sirban system, and it will build up over time in our colonies. Earth might have some trade value already. Let's take a quick look. Trade value. No, not just... Oh, yep, there it is. 16. It's got its own little section. I was looking in planet production, but our trade value for Earth is currently 16. So that's being collected by the local starbase, because there is, in fact, a trade hub here. So we are bringing that in. And basically, this policy sets that trade value to be converted to energy. But you can also have trade value converted partly to energy and a slightly smaller percentage. So you're giving up some efficiency here. You're losing 0.25 of that trade value if you make this policy, but it can contribute to your consumer goods if you're in a situation where you want to have consumer benefits. Same with Marketplace of Ideas. So you could have the same split. You lose a little bit of efficiency, but some of your trade value will go to Unity, which again helps with your traditions. And then finally, robotic workers, we can outlaw or allow. For now, we're going to allow them. We might have a policy decision to make in terms of our factions, where we perhaps outlaw that to make some people happy. It depends which factions form and which become influential. We'll see. It's kind of a political game to be played. And that's all to come. Refugees, we are welcoming refugees. We're going to be nice and friendly this playthrough. Population controls are prohibited. Slavery is prohibited and has to be prohibited with our ethics. And purges are also, for the same reason, prohibited. So those are some of our initial policies decisions. Let's also talk very quickly, before I unpause, about species rights. We can set species rights for humans to a couple of different things. Citizenship is, of course, full citizenship. They're our main empire species. Now, we can set utopian abundance because we have... Interesting. I didn't have this option before. Is this because of the ethics change that I made? I'm just thinking in terms of the games that I played preparing for this versus what I had before. Maybe I did have it and I didn't notice. But anyway, you can see the benefit here. This is what we currently have, and there's a certain amount of upkeep in terms of consumer goods. I've talked about consumer goods a lot so far. And then we have a certain amount of political power that is assigned to specialists and rulers as a result of the fact that our living standards are set in our species rights are currently at decent conditions. Utopian abundance is a way to make all the population of your empire particularly happy. Look at that happiness boost, 20% for all echelons of your society. Pretty cool. So for all of your strata, your rulers, your specialists, and your workers, all of them get 20% happier, living under utopian abundance. But the upkeep is a solid 1.0 for every population class. So basically, everyone's getting the same as the rulers. That's what utopian abundance is. So it's like everyone is just rich. So you would want to set that in the end game when you had the economy to kind of stomach it. That's not something we're going to do now. Military service. Full military service is what we're using for humans. Colonization is allowed. Population controls, none. Migration controls, none. So we can go ahead and say that, for instance, we don't want a particular species to migrate on their own. Just pick up and move to another planet. And of course, we're not going to say that to humans. We might have a species in our empire eventually where we do say we want migration controls. And then, of course, if there were slaves or purges set to this particular species, which there would never be in this situation, I don't think, unless we go full evil by the end of the run, which is not likely, then we can set slavery type or purge type, which, again, we're not going to worry about that. But those are some interesting decisions when you're playing as a more evil empire, I guarantee you that. And then finally, let's look at one thing on our homeworld that we haven't taken a glance at yet. These are our blockers. Now, we're starting out with 3, and they cost 300 energy to clear these. And we can clear all of them. They're the only blockers in the game that can be cleared at the beginning. The rest of the blockers, you have to research how to clear them, and there are different types. But this is the one, this one. This looked like the slump, but this is the slump. If I clear this one, notice this is going to give me an extra pop on Earth. And we unlock more building slots as the planet grows, and we're close to 35. So yes, I would like this. That is a worthwhile spending of 300 energy. And on that note, we will go ahead and unpause. We're building a couple of corvettes at the Sol Station. Oh yay, we've got a new tradition. That was nice. Let's pause again. So starbase influence costs reduced by 10%. New colonies start with additional 1 pop. I'm going to go ahead and go for this one. And the reason is that we are more likely to be able to take advantage of this sooner. Normally, I might go for this one first if we were going to colonize very soon. But we have this situation in Sirban right around the corner. So let's just go for... Did I click the right one? Yeah, reach for the stars. So this is going to give us a slight reduction, as I mentioned a moment ago, in terms of the influence cost. A slight reduction to how much it takes to establish an outpost in a new system. Let's go back to speed 2. All right, so the Audubon Monument is almost done building on Earth. Unified Solar Republic is abuzz with news of the alien organisms discovered some time ago. These little evolutionary marvels kindle in the human people a renewed hope of first contact with intelligent beings. Intriguing. That's also one thing I do want to jump back and take a look at. These are the 2 anomalies we've discovered so far. I've put some off, but I didn't read. It kind of bothered me when I realized this watching the first episode. I didn't read them. So the surface of this asteroid is littered with metallic debris. Most of it appears to originate from starships of many different designs. Now, are you going to tell me where that is? Oh, wait, go to. There we go. So this is in Sirban. We have that anomaly there. We're not going to be able to deal with that until we've dealt with the Marauders. And then we have this atmospheric object. Sensor echoes have indicated the presence of some kind of unidentified object deep within the atmosphere of this gas giant. So for those of you who are new to Stellaris, the reason I like reading these, I read them a little bit less when we get into the mid and late game because there's more going on, but it's such an amazing aspect of the game's kind of progression. There's a real sense of story that can develop, especially when we find some archaeological sites that we can dig into, which we haven't found yet. But these things, you discover things as you go out, and they actually have a narrative to them, which is one of the reasons I love this game. And it's like the space strategy game that I play now for so many reasons. I'm going to go ahead and send this construction ship, which is bored doing nothing, to Coggin. And I might also build another science ship soon, but I'm going to hold off on doing that until our corvettes are built. We still have the NSS Asimov, piloted by Darcy Brooks, our new scientist we hired last episode. She is exploring in Alpha Centauri, and it's going to take her... There's still a lot to survey in Alpha Centauri. I'm having second thoughts about that edict, about Map the Stars. I kind of do want to use that. I normally don't this early, but you know what? I'm going to do it.
System survey.
I think I made a good argument for maybe why I shouldn't. So I'm kind of taking a risk, but let's see what happens. The Coggin system has been fully surveyed. Excellent. A small rectangular object on the surface of this planet, which planet? In Coggin, is deflecting all scanning beams like a mirror. Our sensors are unable to determine its material composition. Let's go ahead. That's only 89 days. So let's go ahead and have our researcher, Sanvi Naik. We're going to have her look into that. Also, I just realized, even before you do that, I'm holding Control-Shift-Click. I'm going to send her back to Sol. in order to repair her ship, because she's not in very good shape. If she were to run into any threats, she'd be in a lot of trouble, because she was the one that escaped from the cultist marauders, very fortunately. So I just Control-Shift clicked and clicked repair, and that's sending her back to the closest friendly station. So I've sent this ship to Cog, and I'm going to go ahead and give the order to build the starbase so that we can be getting ready to expand. We do have some energy here that we can exploit, which would be helpful.
We have detected an anomaly.
We're receiving a weak signal from the surface of this moon in Alpha Centauri. The source appears to be some kind of tracking beacon. So it's the moon of Alpha Centauri 4, Alpha Centauri 4A. Tell you what, go ahead and research that. That's 120 days. A tracking beacon could be related to our precursors, which there's always a precursor event in Stellaris that begins somewhere near you, and you get to learn about a different civilization. And some have been added, I believe, in this most recent update that kind of inhabited the galaxy long before you. You get some really interesting narratives that pop up. One thing I would love to do in Stellaris at some point
Construction completed.
on the channel is I want to go back and play as the voices again. The voices were my very first Stellaris series, and because I was still learning the game, and because I just kind of wanted to build an empire and explore, I did something really unusual in that I set the number of alien empires in the game to 0. And that doesn't mean you don't run into alien empires. It just means that any alien empires that emerge in that setting would be from planets that started on the game as pre-space civilizations. And so you kind of become a precursor in that situation, where you're the only major empire at the start. And that'd be fun to do in this new version of Stellaris. It's been a long time. That might be something I do relatively soon. You guys can let me know whether or not you'd want to see that. It'd be a very different type of game because we wouldn't have a lot of competition, but narratively, it would be so much fun. A small short-range transmitter has been located on the surface of Alpha Centauri 4A. It appears to be an ancient survey marker placed here eons ago to mark a large deposit of precious metals. The miners it was meant for evidently never arrived, as the deposit is still there. So, because we researched that anomaly, notice now Alpha Centauri is a mineral-rich system. We're going to need to get there not only to colonize Alpha Centauri 3, but we need to... we actually haven't surveyed Alpha... Oh, no. Yes, we have. Let's take a closer look at 3 in a second. But yeah, we're going to need to get there not only to colonize that, but to get those minerals. So Alpha Centauri 3, to give you a sense for what I'm looking at when I am... You can click... By the way, notice what I'm doing. I'm just clicking the planet icons here, and it cycles between the planets in the system when there are some to be colonized. With the exception of systems like Sirbin, where there's a enemy threat, so they're not showing. But there is a colonizable world there. We don't have sensor range on that system. That's the problem. So otherwise, we'd see the icon, I think. Anyway, so we have a 15-slot world. This means 15 districts can be built on Alpha Centauri. And we have 4 blockers, 2 dense jungle, 2 toxic kelp, no rare resources, sadly. I didn't look at Sirbin to see if there are rare resources, or at least I don't recall looking. All right, so we're getting these mining stations built. Notice that I just almost did that by habit. But we do want that extra energy as soon as possible.
System survey concluded.
Nice. Humans and ologists are practically falling over themselves to publish their takes on the recent findings of alien life. This fevered storm in the scientific community has had some negative yet temporary impact on pursuits in other fields. Remarkable. Okay, so it looks like Alpha Centauri has been fully surveyed. That's good news. We're going to stay on speed 2 for now, just to allow things to kind of unfold. Now, let's see. Now that this system's been fully surveyed, where are you going? Okay, you're going out a little bit farther. You know what? Hang on. What are you doing? Yeah, I want you to survey these 2, and then you can keep looking. So this science ship is now back to what I originally ordered her to do, which is just to move through these systems, including these 2 closer to Sol, in order to find any potential colonizable worlds. Alien mural. While conducting surface scans of Coggan 4, Science Officer Sanvi Naik and the crew of the NSS Azofi discovered what appears to be an artificially carved slab of rock covered in alien writing. They have not detected any other signs of alien activity on the planet, and exactly how this mural came to be here is a mystery. We have prepared a special project to translate the text. So, issues special project, and I think she still needs to do that. And how long was that going to take? 180 days? It's going to slow her down slightly, but let's go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, how are our ships looking? All right, so we're at 370 now. I'm going to give the order for the final corvette to be built. And by the end of this episode, I think we will have taken out the cultist marauders. All right, so Procyon is the system here. There does not appear to be a habitable world in Procyon. But here's Procyon. Procyon is a real star system. And actually, let me check this really quickly. Have we found Sirius yet? No, we haven't.
Construction completed.
I'm always picky about whether Sirius and Procyon are on the same side of Earth. And I think that might be Sirius. I'll be really excited if that is. We'll find out. Procyon's a fairly large system, though, so at least there's nothing habitable, but maybe there'll be something. Maybe there'll be something as far as its resources that's worth grabbing. Okay, so new colonies start with additional 1 pop, or Empire Sprawl from systems and colonies is reduced by 25%. Empire Sprawl is currently at 3450. Starbase upkeep reduced by 20%. Let's go ahead and do that. It's not going to be a huge benefit to us right now because we don't have too many starbases. But those other benefits are just not as potentially useful. Oh, hey. We have an Arctic world. 25-slot Arctic world in Peya. Very interesting. I would rather you go ahead and explore first. Just finish looking around here. See what's going on. This is not Sirius, I don't think. Sirius is a blue star. So I'm not sure what the system name is, but it's not the one we hoped it would be. All right, go ahead and... Oh yeah, that's right. We're still waiting on this science ship to survey. Alien mural is almost done, though. How big is the Sayama system?
Has concluded.
Oh, it's really small. Okay, she'll be done with that in no time. Science Officer Sanvi Naik has managed to partially translate the alien mural discovered on Coggan 4. It is a memorial for an extinct alien race that once maintained a small interstellar empire in this region of the galaxy. They were apparently exterminated by the creators of the mural, a fact that they seem to regret. Given that the mural has been dated to be in excess of 300 million years old, it is likely that its creators are also extinct by now. Perhaps most interesting of all is the material that the mural was made of, despite its age, is in remarkably good condition. So this is going to give her some experience, which is great news. She's already level 2. And it's not quite going to level her up, but you can notice that I can check the progress there. And also, we're going to gain some engineering progress, which is really going to help. It's going to bring us very close to finishing our engineering boost. Amazing. Yeah, 5 months away from being done. Wunderbar. All right, so yeah, this is the eunuch system. not eunuch as in Pirates of the Caribbean references, but eunuch. Oh, nice. This is a cool binary system here. It's a class M and a class G star. There's Isam. I don't know where Sirius is. Maybe Sirius is over here somewhere. Sirius and Procyon are near each other in the Earth sky, so I prefer to see that whenever possible. Okay, so we have our 10 ships. Our fleet strength is now 414. Let's give this a shot, shall we? I don't think I can actually see. Oh, I can. There's still 303. Good. We're going to take on the cultists. All right, so you're surveying and you're done because you've fulfilled your orders. So why don't you go ahead and survey all of those, please. And of course, we have that 25-slot Arctic world to look forward to. We might terraform that into a continental world before we colonize it. Or colonize it first, just accept the happiness and habitability penalties for a while. It'll be like our personal Hoth, if you want to think of it that way.
Research concluded.
Nice. All right, so we've got a few things about to happen. Let me pause for a moment and discuss these one at a time. Engineering research from researchers has just finished. This is our first research project concluding in the series. So now we can choose between 3 new options because, again, we finished one choice, and so we've been dealt a new hand of cards. So we can improve mining station output across the board. So that's the energy mining stations and the mineral mining stations put out 10% more, and that's fairly cheap. We can go ahead and unlock starbase modules for hangar bays, which are very useful for protecting trade routes, and also they unlock fighters for our ships if we install them on ships that can have carrier modules. And then finally, assembly patterns, which improves planet build speed across the board. These are both more expensive. I'm going to go with 0G refineries because I would like that early boost to my resource output before anything else. I want these as well. These are all good options, but this is the one that I want the most, and it happens to be the cheapest. So we're going to go with that. It's 41 months away, but we'll probably finish that sooner, as you guys have already seen. 5 months away from society research and 14 months away from the physics research boost being done. We also have the option now to build another something or other. Another something or other? That's a horrible way to put that. We can build something else on Earth. Let's see what our options are. Now, administrative offices, we're okay for now. We can probably build more administrative offices before long, but we've built our second alloy foundry, And I think I'm going to go ahead and build our second civilian industries because I don't want to have a shortage develop in these and have to manage that early on. If we build a second civilian industries, we will put some of our mineral income into consumer goods. Again, once we have put an outpost in Alpha Centauri, we'll be fine. So that's not something I'm concerned about with regard to the consumer goods eating up some of those minerals because we're going to have more mineral income before long. But that will allow us to have a nice income because you can see we're only at +2 consumer goods per month. That's going to keep going down as the population grows. You have to think about that, especially in the early game. So you got to keep an eye on shortages that are not already there, not just already there, but also that could develop. All right, so this is going to be a bit of an interesting fight because there are only 3 corvettes, but one of the ships, I didn't point this out in the last episode, but one of the ships is a battleship. So this is, that battleship has the potential to give me a real problem. So let's go to speed 1 and watch this combat unfold, shall we?
Engaging hostile forces.
All right, so our missile corvettes are off to the races. So the balance of power right now is strong. All right, our governor has gained the righteous trait. You can always click the notification to actually see the traits. That's good news. Remember, we replaced our governor last episode. Now, if any crime develops on our core sectors, we will not have to worry about it as much because Concetta is our governor. I want to see that number go down. Yes, I want to see 303 go down, but I also want to see their corvettes die. We haven't lost any ships yet, which is good. Good. Okay, we've got 1 corvette down. The other 2 should die a little bit faster now. It's the battleship that's problematic, but it looks like we're giving them a run for their money so far. Their shields and armor are completely gone. All of our ships still have some degree of shields and armor, and we haven't lost a single ship in battle yet. This is great. Okay. I don't know if we lost them or if they... Hang on, let's look. Yeah, it looks like we might have lost 1 ship because they're not showing as in existence anymore. The cultist fleet operating in the Serpent system has been destroyed in battle. Good. Yep, so we did lose 1 ship, sadly. All right, thankfully, we have plenty of alloys because we built... Remember, we have those extra alloys coming in, double what we would have had, so that's why we have a nice stash with which to replace that ship. I'm going to give the order for those ships to return. Now we are seeing, once again, our ocean world in Sirban, and we are absolutely... See, now I'm torn because I want this surveying to continue, but we'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and have this science ship come here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give the order to look at that anomaly. Control-Shift-Click. So she's going to do that, and I'm going to Control-Shift-Click again for her to survey the system. So she's going to survey the system first. But we've defeated the cultists. She's on the way to check out that neighboring system. And this particular scientist, the Azofi and Sanvi Naik, they're going to continue to survey Sayama and Barnard Star. As soon as we have these surveyed, we can bring them into our territory, and then Alpha Centauri is already fully surveyed, so we can just boom, boom, boom. You want to always establish your colonies kind of in adjacency to your territory. And not just your colonies, but your additional systems, like we did with Kogan, because the farther away they are from your current borders, the more influence it's going to cost you. It's usually about double. Let's go up to speed 2. All right, so the first fleet's going to heal up, which is
Knowledge is the key
necessary.
to the universe.
The new ship has already been built, and it looks like we've finished our society research boost, which is great news. So we can choose between the hydroponics farms, which is in a planet-side building, and a starbase side building called the Hydroponics Bay. We can do the off-world trading company, which gives us the ability to build something that will boost our trade value. For each trade hub is the way that it works. So you have to have a trade hub on the starbase first. Every starbase in the game has modules and buildings. So this is a building that we're looking at as an option, not a module. And then the eco simulation is additional food from farmers, which is, again, and this unlocks the farming subsidies edict, which is based on a cost of influence. You know what? These are all tempting. We're going to have some colonies starting pretty soon. It's between these two for me. Beatrice has the statecraft bonus, so she'll research this one a little bit faster. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I haven't gotten that option very often after skipping it in my recent playthroughs. Like, I've usually made another choice and then regretted it because it's taken a while for that option to pop back up. I don't want that to happen this time. All right, so we're going to finish surveying Sirban. It looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
System survey
objects
concluded.
left to survey in Sirban. So Let's let that go through. Sayama is done being surveyed. Fantastic. I knew that wouldn't take long. We're going to go ahead and build an outpost there. 67 influence every time. So this is why you have to watch that. And that's why it was, you know, there's going to be there would be some difference of opinion among players as far as whether or not to use as much influence as I did to map the stars at this point in the game. Definitely, if there were more systems that I could jump into like immediately that had really nice colonizable worlds, like even better than the ones I've found, I might have made a slightly different decision. So you have to weigh a lot of things. That's one of the beauties of Stellaris being a grand strategy title set in space or otherwise. I mean, you can play the game a number of different ways in order to achieve victory and have a good time. And it's always a rich and detailed and complex experience. There's no simple game of Stellaris. There's just no such thing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and send you to Sirban, because as soon as we're done in Sirban, I want you to start building an outpost. And it looks like we are almost done.
System survey
Wonderful.
concluded.
That was fast. All right, so let's give the order to build that starbase. And on that note, we're about 31 minutes into this episode. I'm going to go ahead and stop this one here. In the next one, it looks like we will have Sirban and Alpha Centauri. We're going to have to build up some influence to do it, but we're going to have Sirban and Alpha Centauri. Let's give the order to build that mining station. We still are doing fine on minerals. We have almost 1,000 energy, so off to a pretty good start economy-wise. And we have no hint of alien neighbors yet, but that's pretty normal for the speed we've been playing on and how far we've explored. We haven't really stretched forth too far as the Unified Solar Republic yet, but I'm going to stop this one here. Again, in the next one, we're going to have those two in our territory. We're probably going to start the colony on Sirban 2, maybe even start the colony on Alpha Centauri 3 at the same time, so we can have some new worlds to add to the core sector. Let me make one small change now, because this always bothers me. This is going to be the Sol sector, not the Earth sector. There we go. That's better. All right. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. New episodes of Final Federation 2 are coming out every single day at 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Comments are always welcome. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.